Talking Nets, episode 95. Wow, we are live in studio in the Bronx, John Boy Media offices with Nets Magazine here. Today, we're going to talk about LaMarcus Aldridge retiring. We're going to talk about Spencer Dinwiddie being ahead of schedule. We're going to obviously talk about the Sixers and laugh about the Sixers. We'll touch a little bit on the Timberwolves game. We'll read your reviews, play your voicemails, and then we'll get out of here. Talking Nets, let's get it. Let's go. We go hard. Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 95. Like Game said in that song, hate it or love it, the underdogs are on top. He told Pooh in 95, I'll kill you if you try me for my Air Max 95s. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn. Hudson Flynn, say what's up to the people.
Man, what is up, everybody? This is a very special episode. You mentioned in the open, we got Yes Nets Magazine, the Yes Network, showing up live in studio.
What?
We're live in studio. We're making moves.
Them?
The Nets are making moves, and boy, we got quite a bit to talk about. I don't think either of us have ever been so hyped going into a podcast after a loss before, rolling in, losing to the Sixers, but still feeling we're at the top of the world. Keith, how are you doing?
We are at the top of the world. Our world, Nets world. That was fun last night, man. That was a blast. I mean, I don't think I had that much fun ever watching my favorite team lose in any sport. I laughed. My girl was like, why were you laughing so much? The Nets lost. I'm like, that fourth quarter was hysterical.
That game was hysterical. The whole game. The whole game. The narratives that came from it. The 76ers fans that want to come talk, that want to be happy. First off, congratulations. You won game 55 of 72.
Congratulations, you played yourself. Like, that's what you really did last night against our B, not even our B team.
Our C team. This is our C team.
Our end of the bench almost came back and stole the tiebreaker. So let's get into some news and narratives. First off, man, what a career. Legend. It was short-lived in Brooklyn, but glad we got to see it. LaMarcus Aldridge has to hang it up. A health issue. Now, we saw a couple days ago that he was out for a non-COVID related illness, and some people on Nets Twitter and some people in the media said some things, and you know, after that Saturday loss to the Lakers, we kind of were looking at LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, I know me personally, I was like, yo, he looked a step slow. And
he didn't have that same fight. He didn't have what we saw in the 4 previous games that he played with us, and that was obviously something that we didn't really know what to make of. We thought, oh, maybe it's just, you know, he's just getting used to the system, needs some rest, but we find out today, sadly, Thursday, April 15th, when we're recording, that he had a cardiac arrhythmia and irregular heartbeat, and it scared him so much. And when he put out his retirement statement, you could really feel the emotion that he felt, and it was honestly sad to hear. It was terrible to read. It was scary, but he had a great career. His 5 games with the Nets were memorable. He will always and forever be a Net, and he's going to get a ring when we win one. He's getting that ring.
I like that talk. Talk heavy, Hudson. Rings. LaMarcus Aldridge will get a ring. He's a Texas legend, University of Texas. The Spurs, obviously Portland. You know, he's got fans out there, and now he's got fans here in Brooklyn. These Brooklyn Nets fans embraced him, and we only got to see him for 5 games.
5 games, but he showed out, though. He played well in those 5 games. Obviously, we're probably going to remember most that Pelicans game where he dropped 22. He was the second leading scorer. He looked great. And really right from the jump, when he came in, inserted himself as the starting center, he looked great. And it's sad to see, obviously, that he has to go, that the Nets are losing that production. But at the same time, it's good for him, and it's tragic because this is the second time this has happened for the Nets. This is the second time we've had someone have a medical procedure, a medical examination, and have some bad news, some scary news come back. Obviously, the first time being Karis LeVert after he got traded.
Something is in the air with the Brooklyn Nets this year, maybe with the training staff. I think we've got some of the best medical people in the industry by the way that they handle injuries, but also how they detect these things, these issues like Karis had with his kidney. And now, well, I don't know if they detected that, but in the trade, he had to get a physical
I believe it was actually the Pacers medical staff detected it. But regardless, it's crazy to see that there are these really scary, tragic injuries and medical conditions that you don't usually see in the NBA. And a lot of people are attributing that to the condensed season, how many games we're playing. But to me, this is just some tragic stuff. It's sad. It's terrible. But LaMarcus Aldridge, forever and always, will be in net, is going to get a ring when the Nets win one. And at this point, the Nets just need to move forward, appreciate what he did. But 55 games through the season, we got some games we still got to win.
Yeah, we've got some games we've got to win, and now this changes what we're thinking about this roster, these lineups, who's going to be playing where, and we'll get into more of that. But we missed this last episode. Last episode, we did not mention my guy Spencer Dinwiddie, talking about health, talking about the Nets training staff. Spencer Dinwiddie is ahead of schedule. He may return this season, and if you listen to Talking Nets,
called it,
what you're doing right now, what did I say? June? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was saying he got hurt game 3 of the season, and I'm like, he'll be back in June. Spencer will be back in June. Do you think Spencer's on pace to come back for the playoff run?
I mean, if you're looking at the workout videos he's posting, if you're seeing what he's doing, he just posted, he finished phase 1 of his rehab is completed. It's crazy stuff, and he's moving fast. And look, if you know Spencer Dinwiddie, you know never to doubt him, and we don't. We're not in the business of doubting him. And right now, it looks like the Nets might need him, at least in the short term, because Chris Chiozza, another Net, out for the season. He broke his hand, had surgery on his hand, and that was tough, seeing that he was actually really doing well in the role that he was given. He was playing nicely with this lack of ball handlers that the Nets had. So it sucks to see him go down, but the Nets are down 2 big contributors now, and they got some slots they need to fill.
Man, shout out to Lil Cheese. He was getting DMPs, and then he got a start, and then he broke his hand and didn't get to finish the game. But back to Spencer, the tech guy with the jumper. He said, nothing guaranteed, but now y'all finally see the vision. Y'all finally believe the vision. Like, this is why he was working out and showing y'all, like, he's trying to come back. This isn't his first knee injury. He's been down this road before. The Nets did not trade him. There was a lot of talk about him getting traded at the trade deadline, and he stayed here because in Marks we trust. Sean Marks has a plan. Sean Marks definitely has a plan that if he's ready and healthy and gets the green light from our training staff, Spencer Dinwiddie can rejoin this squad.
Talk about an X factor, Keith.
Talk about an X factor, and talk about a guy rejoining this squad. KD has rejoined this squad, and I love the energy that KD put out Monday night into Tuesday. I knew he was going to step on the court and kill after he kills Shannon Sharpe on the tweets. Twitter fingers, look at you, emotional.
More career tweets than he has career points. Also, a noted follower of Talking Nets on Twitter. He annihilated Shannon Sharpe. He annihilated Shannon Sharpe in a series of tweets. Shannon Sharpe got tricked by a fake account making a fake ESPN graphic that happened over the summer. We talked about this over the summer. It tricked me for a second too, and then, it's a fake. Whatever, let's move forward. Shannon Sharpe is getting tricked by it in April of 2021 and is going live on television on his TV program and trying to bury KD for something that he didn't even say.
Shannon, number 1 LeBron fan. Some of y'all call him Uncle Shay Shay.
50-year-old man with LeBron sheets.
With the yak and the miles. All I got to say about this is go to @TalkingNets on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and look at the video I made breaking down the whole beef, which it wasn't even a beef. It was just KD. A mistake by Shannon Sharpe, KD calling him on it, and Shannon Sharpe blocking KD.
Doubling down on his mistake. Honestly, the way that came out, KD placed Shannon Sharpe under the basket and dunked on him. It was just an evisceration. And we'll get to it, but he went on the court and eviscerated people on Tuesday.
Of course. He wakes up in the morning, gets his tweets off, steps on the court, 31 points in 27 minutes. Man, let's move on to the next lame that we got to talk about in the news and narratives. Ben Simmons, Mona Lisa looking ass. Yo, Ben Simmons, watch some film. Why does Chris Broussard have to come out and correct you? You're in the NBA. And you're really going on record saying that there's one ball. At the end of the day, there's only one ball, and you got to play defense too. You really said that about the Nets? And you know you're going to have to see us. You just saw us last night. We're still processing what happened last night. That's the title of this episode. what did you think about the quote from Ben Simmons and then Chris Broussard going on FS1? That surprised me. Usually the talking heads, they love those false narratives. But Chris Broussard actually said, if you watch the Nets, they get their assists. And they've been playing a lot better defense, really. Like, what film have you been watching? You don't watch film, Ben Simmons.
I mean, since that Pistons loss a while back, the Nets have been top 15 all season in defense, which is top half, which is honestly at this point pretty great, more than we could ask for considering how great our offense is. And look, Ben Simmons is a person who was declared academically ineligible at LSU.
Damn.
And look, I know this personally, and Keith, I'm sure you have some experience being a D1 athlete yourself. My aunt.
Who, me?
Oh yeah, Keith. You know, I heard you play some football back in the day.
Glory days.
But no, my aunt was actually a tutor. She was a head of the tutoring program at the University of Maryland. So when Stephon Diggs was there, when a lot of those athletes, those football players were there, she was one of the people that was in charge of making sure they weren't declared academically ineligible. And I've been in that office. They got a whole lot of people working on that. You got to do some serious work if you're trying to get yourself declared academically ineligible. He did it in college, and it looks like he hasn't quite lost that thread because he does not know what he's talking about, Keith.
He just never went to class. It's pretty easy to just not show up. All right, moving on, man. Speaking of Ben Simmons and not showing up, and, some guys didn't show up last night, and we still showed up. Let's play a voicemail leading in to the Sixers talk.
Yo, Keith, Hudson, what's up, guys? It's Robbie here. So looking forward to the Nets Sixers game, I think on Wednesday. It's actually being a statement game, obviously. I didn't even realize it's actually the tiebreaker game for the Nets, since I know we only played them 3 times this year in the shortened season. My question really is, how important do you guys think the first seed is for the Nets? Because if you guys do think it's important, it may turn out to be basically the biggest game left in the regular season for them. And I know people always talk about playing the Bucks in the second round and how that could possibly be bad. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Let's go. Let's hope Kyrie gets back soon. And yeah, let's go Nets.
Kyrie was back though.
Kyrie was back. Game 55 of 72. The Nets lose to the Sixers in Philly, 123-117.
But has a loss ever tasted more like a win? Oh my goodness.
That was the favorite loss I think I've ever taken as a fan watching any sports, period, any team. And
it was crazy.
It didn't feel like a loss. So to answer your question, talking about the 1 seed, going into this game, there was a lot of conversation on Nets Twitter about, if this is a back-to-back now, right? The Timberwolves game got moved. So now this becomes a back-to-back. KD played 27 minutes in that Timberwolves game, so we're punting the Sixers game. We can't punt the Sixers game. It's against the number 1 seed and the tiebreaker, and that's the Sixers. Well, the Nets organization decided that it wasn't that important, that we're going to rest KD. We're going to rest LaMarcus Aldridge because he's about to retire. Blake Griffin, the knees look good, bro, but you can chill too.
No Chris Chiozza.
Chris Chiozza just broke his hand. He's done for the season. And people laugh at us when we mention Tyler Johnson not playing as if Tyler Johnson doesn't count. Tyler Johnson is a serviceable NBA player that plays for your Brooklyn Nets. We didn't have most of our guys. James Harden. I don't know if y'all can see my shirt.
I know they can see mine, though.
Yeah, they can see both now. We didn't have those guys. We rolled out there into, right? Okay, so we were 1-1 going into that game last night. We knew what it was, okay? The Nets are not afraid of anyone. Our world, Nets world. We went into that game we're going to punt this game, and if Kyrie goes off and somehow we steal this game, we steal this game. But we're not worried about the 1 seed. We weren't worried about a tiebreaker. Hudson, what were your thoughts when you saw KD, right? Because Malika Andrews reported that KD was going to sleep on it, wake up the next morning and see how he felt. But really, we knew that it was the Nets' decision. We knew that it was going to be the trainers, the medical staff's decision. And we've heard about his ramp up and, him having these high-intensity workouts, and we pretty much knew that he wasn't going to play back-to-back nights. So some fans looked at it as a punt game. I looked at it as a punt game. I even wrote a tweet to the Nets about, let's roll the dogs out and send a message. We did send a message last night. What were you thinking going into that game?
I mean, first off, the thing I was thinking was, yeah, it's a tiebreaker game, but it's April 15th. That's game 55 of 72. The Nets and Sixers are in all likelihood not going to go into the last game of the NBA season, the regular season, tied. They're not going to rely on this tiebreaker. I mean, stranger things have happened, but let's be honest, there's a lot of games left for both teams. Things are going to happen. But honestly, what we did was we embarrassed the Sixers. We went out and we showed, first off, Ben Simmons, Matisse Thybulle, you got nothing. Absolutely nothing on Kyrie. Kyrie came into that game and just absolutely cooked him 37 points in 3 quarters. And then when the Nets were down, the Nets were losing by 20, he sits the rest of the fourth quarter, just having himself a rest, talking it up with Harden and KD on the bench. And then Keith, what happened? The Nets roll out the C team. They run out the Stay Ready group. And we love them.
Not even the bubble nets anymore.
Not even the bubble nets.
What do we call? We're going to come up with a name for
that's what they call themselves, the Stay Ready group.
Okay, the Stay Ready group.
That's what they call themselves.
They
when
already
they're
named
practicing.
themselves. Stay Ready.
Stay
ready so you ain't got to get ready.
We went and ran them out. First off, Landry Shamet running the point. Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons couldn't even stop him. He was cooking against his former team. And we came back. The Sixers, who left their starters in, couldn't score on Jeff Green or our guy, Alize Johnson, the Keith McPherson
the Moet,
lookalike.
the Alize. I love that guy.
Ian Eagle on the call, I think it was for one of his dunks late in the game. He goes, Alize, passion. And Richard Jefferson damn near ran out of the studio. That was hilarious. I love what I saw from them. Obviously, they came back. They made it a 3-point game. They end up losing on some free throws, but they put Ben Simmons back in the game. They put MVP Joel Embiid back in the game, and they had nothing. They had nothing for your Brooklyn Nets C team, and I, for one, took to Twitter to let some people know that they had nothing for your Brooklyn Nets C team. And we had so many Sixers fans. We had Knicks fans coming in just for the fun to say, oh, but you guys can't stop Embiid. Okay. Let's say Embiid goes out in the playoffs and drops 60 every game. First off, he didn't. If you're getting locked up by DeAndre Jordan holding him to less than 50% from the field and only making your money at free throws.
He was 6 of 15.
Keith,
first quarter, DJ kind of impressed me first quarter.
He did. We got to give him credit, but what I was saying was like the Nets have so many good players. They have all of these scores, all of these weapons. If you can't stop Kyrie when he is the only superstar offensive threat on the floor, if you have 2 players that you consider to be first-team All-NBA defense, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate on the floor, and you cannot stop Kyrie Irving from putting up 37 points in 3 quarters on phenomenal shooting, 75% plus shooting throughout the game. He was making easy money all up and down the court. He was hitting threes. He had that little spin move at the elbow. It was amazing. But then guess what, Keith? You add James Harden, who, by the way, leads the NBA in assists.
The bearded one.
Is a top 2 MVP candidate, but we know he's the MVP. And then, by the way, Kevin Durant, who just the night before dropped 31 points in 27 minutes. Keith, did they legitimately think, like,
No.
I know there's no Nets or no Sixers fans listening to this podcast.
No, they're
Do
still
you guys
processing.
actually think that Joel Embiid is going to be enough? Because why would he be enough? If the Nets C team was like one bounce away from being enough, how is he going to be enough against Kevin Durant, James Harden? Shoot, Blake Griffin wasn't there for that game. Who knows? Maybe Spencer Dinwiddie's going to be back. Who knows? But it was certainly some clownish behavior by Sixers fans, and I left that game feeling phenomenal, just like the Nets did, and just like KD did when he was talking in Embiid's face.
You love to see it. Honestly, bro, let's go back, right? So everybody killed Kyrie because he wasn't going to play in Minnesota. Team flies to Minnesota. Game doesn't get played, gets postponed. Okay, but Kyrie is available to show up to the Wells Fargo Center in Philly. We don't know with speculation. Was he fasting for Ramadan? Was he praying and taking part in that holiday? We don't know. But what we do know about Kyrie is that when he goes on a leave and then he comes back with intentions of killing everyone in his way. Like, you know this. You've seen this. Every time he takes a leave and people tweet about him and the radio hosts say, oh, he's a cancer and how can this team develop chemistry? He comes out and he does things that you've never seen before. He logs on to moves.com, / Kyrie Irving and then goes right into his bag, and Thibault couldn't check him, Ben Simmons couldn't check him. That's one guy, right? It's a big three now. That's 1 of 3. DeAndre Jordan was getting DMPs. He wasn't playing, yo. Like with LaMarcus Aldridge and Claxton, y'all know he wasn't playing. Someone tweeted at me and they're like, can you give DJ props for what he did against Minnesota? And I'm like, no, I'm not giving him props for doing his job against the worst team in the league without Karl Anthony Towns. Like, no. But I will give him props for what he did against Joel Embiid. We got some intel. We got some data last night. We got to see what it's going to look like with Embiid in the playoffs. That's all they really have. Tobias Harris, I want to give some credit. He was cooking us in the first half. He was doing his thing. Joe Harris, couldn't really check him. Joe Harris didn't get hot. That's another thing. The Nets weren't shooting any threes.
They weren't hitting anything. Joe Harris had arguably his worst game of the season. And again, the Nets lose by 6, but we know it was closer than that. Joel Embiid, what if those free throws, what if he doesn't get them? What if he doesn't get 11 free throws? He shot 13 for 29.
We're going to defend him better now after getting this intel. Like, DJ's not going to go for that stupid pump fake. And if Embiid wants to shoot those 15-footers, let him have it. You talk about him getting to the free throw line. Kyrie was 10 for 10 from the free throw line. And I think I heard a stat that Kyrie is like 40 of his last 40.
He's not missing. He's going for the 40, 50, 90
Put
season.
some respect on his name. He was out there by himself. Now, this is what I wanted to talk about with this game. Kyrie is off the floor with 8 minutes left. Joe Harris is off the floor with like 8 minutes left. And this is where the comedy show starts. I think we're down like 20 or 18. And the Stay Ready Nets, the Stay Ready group, they stayed ready. Those boys are hungry. They come in the game, right? We talked about Landry Shamet, revenge game against the Sixers, but it was also a TLC revenge game. TLC was doing his thing a little bit.
Let's not talk about TLC. Over 4 from 3. He hasn't made 2 threes since that Lakers game at the beginning of the season. I don't want to get too much into that.
I was like, let this be the night that his shots start to fall, but they're just not going to fall for the guy. Like, he is the guy on this team that might be the weakest link. But the comedy show starts because the Sixers take their foot off the gas. The Sixers, they don't play hard every possession, especially like I said, they're still processing. They're still processing that, this is the Nets team that stayed within about 10 points all game with just Kyrie out of the big three. And we're not running away. Was there a moment? There wasn't even many moments. There was some moments when all right, Joel and Harris were doing everything. But was there one moment in that game where the Sixers went on a run where you were afraid, where you were like, wow, they're really good?
No, I mean, there were some times where Joel was like, okay, he's going to make those shots. He's playing like he could be an MVP candidate. Tobias Harris was like, playing like he could be, an all-star. But at the end of the day, aside from the fact that I had the two, I can't even believe I'm saying this, Kevin Durant and James Harden on the bench waiting to play in a different game against them. Aside from that fact, the Nets were in it the whole game. And even when it felt like they might not have been, even when they were down 18, Bruce Brown, Clax, Alize Johnson, Landry Shamet, and Uncle Jeff come in, and they embarrass the Sixers. They came all the way back from down 20. They went on a 22-3 run, Keith. How do you consider yourself a fully healthy team that claims to be the best team in the East and let the Stay Ready boys, the C team, and all respect to them, we love them, go out and embarrass you like that? If that happens to you, you are just simply not a contender.
What's up, Doc? What's up, Doc Rivers? Like, those are your boys. Like, Daryl Morey. James Harden, right? Like, they're still processing the fact that there's nothing they can do, that they will not be able to beat the Nets. The Nets were literally laughing. They were on the bench. KD is laughing. He comes out in his pajamas, and he had these weird print pants on. He's in cozy lounge gear laughing at Embiid.
And Sixers fans are chanting MVP sucks.
You're going to cry in the playoffs again. Watch.
The Sixers fans are out there chanting KD sucks to a kid in street clothes.
You're winning the game. KD sucks. You're winning the game. Doc Rivers had to put his starters back in the game with 4 or 5 minutes left to close this thing. And Bruce Brown and Alize Johnson are refusing to lose. And I am getting out of my couch and standing up like, here come the Nets.
The Nets were smiling at the end of that game. The Sixers were not. End of story.
Last thing on the Sixers game, and we'll play some voicemails and probably talk more on the Sixers, but people kept asking why Kyrie wasn't in the game. And if you guys watch the postgame, which we tell you to do, stay tuned on Yes. Watch the postgame so you can get that extra information. Nash said he thought about it, but he didn't want to take any time away from the Stay Ready group. With a 3-point game, he could have put Kyrie Irving in to dominate and possibly win the tiebreaker, but the Nets just showed you they are not afraid. They don't care. We don't need the 1 seed. We don't need home court advantage. Let them have it.
We need to embarrass you. And that's exactly what they did. Shoot, Alize Johnson was a plus 16 off the bench. A plus 16.
Alize Johnson was in the G League a month ago.
That is a higher plus minus than anyone on the 76ers. It's actually a higher plus minus than their entire starting lineup combined. And that's hilarious. Your G League MVP, Alize Johnson, came in and embarrassed you. And you should be embarrassed. You should be worried.
They
you
won,
should be
though.
Scared.
They're the number 1 seed.
Oh, my bad.
They're the number 1 seed in the East. Hudson, respect them. They beat us. Lakers fans and Sixers fans, congratulations. You played yourself. Let's play some voicemails again.
Yo, what's up, Talking Nets? Big KD fan. Originally from Memphis, moved to Brooklyn. Yes, sir. Go Nets. But my question is, how do you think that we're going to guard the big guys in the West and the East when it comes to playoff time? No matter, like, Joel Embiid, Giannis, who do you think we're going to be putting on them? Claxton, is Claxton going to be able to detain them? That's my biggest fear when it comes to us winning the championship. Let's go Nets.
You could put anyone on them. You could put Kyrie Irving one-on-one on them. They can score 60 points a game. It doesn't matter, Keith.
It's not going to matter.
It simply doesn't matter.
Any way you want it, you can get it.
Like, first off, ignoring the fact that the Nets have defended these players well throughout the season, actually, aside from that, it doesn't matter when you have James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving. The Sixers couldn't stop one of them. They certainly can't stop 3 of them. No one's talking about only one ball anymore unless you're a clown like Ben Simmons. Nobody's talking about can't play defense anymore unless you're a clown like Ben Simmons. It really doesn't matter. The Nets are going to make moves. They're going to make signings. They're going to bring some people in. DJ's probably going to get more minutes now that, we don't have LaMarcus Aldridge. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because, okay, you score 50, we can score 51.
No one's outscoring us.
You score 120, we score 121. Every
at
game.
Full strength, no one's outscoring us.
No one is outscoring us at full strength. Oh, and by the way, by the time we're playing them in the playoffs, Spencer Dinwiddie might be back.
It's laughable. We just laugh about the Nets. I'll say this. I would have liked to see Claxton get some more minutes against Embiid. Like, I talk about data and intel. That's all last night was to me. Us getting data and intel, it's film, right? We didn't show our hand at all. They didn't see Harden on the floor. They didn't see KD, Blake, whatever. But we did get to see some matchups, and I would have liked to see Claxton get some minutes. I think RJ said the only way for Claxton to get better at playing defense on Embiid is to play against Embiid. And you Nets fans know the saga between Jared Allen and Embiid and how we watched that transpire from the elbow to Jared Allen actually getting a mean streak, and now he's not on our team anymore. But I would like to see Claxton potentially guard him in the playoffs. And we're talking about Giannis. Come on. I can't wait to just see. I want that series. If you guys remember,
you got dunked on by Justin Anderson, Giannis.
On your head top. Boop. Do you guys remember Harden and Giannis going back and forth around the All-Star game, talking about skills and who's a skilled player and who plays real basketball, who doesn't, and Harden not passing the ball? Giannis was talking about. Let us get into a series, and I guarantee you James Harden will handle that. Let's play another voicemail.
Hey, Keith and Hudson. JJ here from New Jersey.
That's our guy.
Just finished watching.
What happened? Oh, there it is.
Hey, Keith and Hudson. JJ here from New Jersey. Just finished watching Nets and Sixers, and I just wanted to say, if we have KD and Harden, we win this game. As you said,
20.
Keith. They're showing. I'm watching the post game right now on Yes, and they're showing how it's Kyrie. My one question is for this game: why didn't they put Kyrie in at the end? I understand he played 33 minutes tonight, but I mean, not even for the last minute and a half or so, because that's when we just lost all of our momentum. Also, Embiid soft, he flops like a fish. Yeah.
Yeah. We already said, they asked Nash, and he didn't want to take any minutes from anyone else. And you know what? We are also worried about preserving these guys' health. What if we put Kyrie back in to try and steal that game and he twists his ankle?
And look, a loss there wouldn't feel as good.
No, it would have been like, for what? All right, now we got the 1 seed. Like, let them have the 1 seed, and through the rest of this month that we have to play these games, they can process the fact that they're going to have home court, and they might have the easiest route to the finals, but they're not going to get there. Okay, game 54 of 72. Tuesday, it was a postponed game. Rest in peace to Dante Wright. We spoke and we talked heavy on our last podcast, episode 94. We had some real talk and some real conversations, as we have been known to do on Talking Nets. And that game, we didn't know if they were going to play it or not, cancel it or not. It's all about the money. They got to play. They flew out there. They chartered a plane to get these guys out there to Minnesota. They had to play. And the one thing that I said, I replied to the Brooklyn Nets Twitter. I said, let's bully and let's leave. And that's exactly what we did. Hudson, let's give these people a couple nuggets from the Timberwolves game. I'll start off with the fact that this was the Brooklyn Nets' 28th different starting lineup. Think about that. Game 54 of this 72-game season, that's the 28th different starting five you got to see for your Brooklyn Nets.
First off, that's a ridiculous stat because we added number 29 to it the next game. But on the real, first off, the Timberwolves are the worst team in the NBA. Let's just put that aside. Before anyone says that, and a lot of people we know. We are aware.
Can we send a shout out to Karl Anthony Towns, a Jersey guy?
Absolutely.
It was the anniversary of his mother passing, and he didn't play in that game.
Bigger than basketball.
Jackie Anthony Towns, rest in peace, and I'm sure everybody in the Talking Nets family and NBA community knows all about that. So shout out to Cat.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, the Timberwolves are not a good team, and the Nets showed it. They were up by 40 at one point. There was talk about, was this going to be the Nets' biggest margin of victory ever? We had Kevin Durant in when the Nets were up 40. Because, of course, why not? Getting KD his minutes. Nash, that's what Nash said. Nash was like, look, we're getting KD his minutes. We want him to ramp up, and that's what we did. And obviously, you know what KD did. 31 points, 27 minutes, 11 of 15 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. He looked like Kevin Durant. That is it. That is simply it. But we also had a great performance from Joe Harris, who really had, I would say, one of the other big performances of this week, even though he didn't really play as well in that Sixers game. He puts up 23 points. He's 5 of 8 from 3. And it's good to see him get his stroke back a little bit. And that's important.
Whoa. Pause.
You're going to call pause on that? Damn.
I'm playing, man. I'm kidding.
Nah, he was looking good, though. Obviously, he didn't look as good in the Sixers game. But it's great to see him go 5 of 8 from 3. Love to see it. Landry Shamet, 26 minutes, 19 points. Remember when we were saying he didn't deserve to be on this team? Didn't deserve to be in the NBA?
We cyberbullied him into being good at basketball.
Oh, my goodness. We said so many mean things about him, and we're so sorry. We're sorry.
Yeah, I take it back, but it works. Cyberbullying works. Hudson said, man, let's just make a video and make fun of him. And we were like, we made the video, shit Nets fans say. And we were like, man, Landry Shamet, why do we trade for him? Sadiq Bey. And then I guess that got back to Landry, and he started killing. He's a sharpshooter.
Mad respect to him. I love his release. I like how he has that little backwards leap. I love his release. Keith, tell me how that you can call pause on me saying I like his. This is a basketball podcast.
Hey, yo, listen, do your thing. You got it. Go for it, bro.
Oh my God! In front of the Yes Network cameras, putting this on national television.
You like the stroke and release? Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
Oh yeah, you gonna say go ahead and finish. You gonna say go ahead and get off this goddamn podcast, Keith. I'm out.
Hey.
Yo, Landry Shamet played well. Good night.
All right, back to this game. We knew KD was gonna kill because of Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, you did this to the Minnesota Timberwolves. A-Rod, I'm sorry you bought the Timberwolves. In the first game you see the Timberwolves play, the Brooklyn Nets beat the brakes off of those boys.
Anthony Edwards doesn't know who you are.
Anthony Edwards is like, A-Rod. Yeah, J-Lo's boyfriend, husband, ex-husband, I don't know. But what else from this game? D-Lo, Nets fans or D-Lo stans. D-Lo comes off the bench. He starts off 5 for 5, and I'm like, he's putting on a show for us Brooklyn Nets fans. Good to see you, old friend. And other than that, the only knock on the Nets that I had was that there was too many turnovers. And that bled into the Sixers game because I was like, okay, you turn over the ball against the worst team in the NBA. You got to clean that up. And then we did have some turnovers last night that made the Sixers game even closer. Without some of those turnovers, the Sixers don't even have that much of a lead on us. But we're talking about the Timberwolves game. despite all of the nonsense and all the garbage that we have to see in our phones and social media, I appreciate the tribute that the Timberwolves put together. The guys wearing the, liberty, freedom, justice for all shirts. Again, the NBA leads and everyone else follows. They made a statement, and these guys played through it. And I have to send credit to Steve Nash. They put Steve Nash on the spot to talk about it, and Steve Nash speaks incredibly about it. He says, I don't know what it's like to be African-American. I can't imagine being an African-American parent. He's calling for change. He's calling for real change. And he's like, you know what? I don't know exactly how we get there, but not playing basketball today isn't going to necessarily change anything. And I'm glad we played that game. It's another win in the win column. It was a back-to-back. Whatever. It's time to wrap this show up. It's time to wrap this podcast up. Talking Nets, episode 95. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn. Anything else from that Minnesota game?
Game number 54 of 72. That is all it was. It's a win.
DJ back in the lineup, getting his reps. So it's good,
Whatever. Honestly, good. We win. We did what we had to do. We didn't play down to our competition. You love to see it.
Upcoming schedule. The next two games. We'll be back after the next two games. Friday, tomorrow. Most of you will hear this podcast tonight. The Hornets are in Brooklyn. And you know what happened when we played the Hornets. LaMelo Ball is not going to be out there.
Actually, most of their team isn't going to be out there.
They released
their injury report.
They're missing a few guys.
They're missing a large amount of their team. You talk, Keith. I'll tell everyone who they're missing.
It's going to be bad. Like, last time we played them, I came home from Yankee Stadium and caught the rest of that game, and I laughed. I think we put out the video. I had a couple beers. It was on opening day. I was laughing at the Nets. I was like, what? Like, what is going on? It was LaMarcus Aldridge's second game?
It was either his first or his second game.
And that's another thing with LaMarcus Aldridge. Like, at least we didn't wait. You know how I talked about Nash capturing his Pokemon and having to evolve them before he put them into battle? It took 2 games for LaMarcus Aldridge to play, and then he was able to get 5 before calling it a career. We saw him in that Hornets game, and I expect us to smack the Hornets again. Devontae Graham,
absolutely
Bridges.
Not playing.
I don't even know. They're not playing. Like
Devontae Graham's not playing. Obviously, Gordon Hayward's out. Malik Monk is out. Washington is out. Brett Wanamaker's out.
They're not playing. So
they're not playing. Nets are going to win by 50. I'm excited for that.
Stay ready.
It did just break. We're not going to see James Harden. We're not going to see Tyler Johnson. This was actually the 10-day mark.
I was just about to say
of James Harden.
We should be checking on that.
So
Nets.
we were. And he's going to be
time.
reevaluated. He's not going to play tomorrow, and we don't know how this reevaluation has gone yet. Obviously, maybe we will by the time this releases. But as it looks right now, he's not going to play tomorrow, and hopefully he'll be getting ready to play in the future because everyone likes talking about, oh, man, the Nets haven't played together enough. Oh, my God.
How are they going to gel? There's not enough time. It's a 72-game season. They're 55 games in. They're not going to have chemistry for the playoffs.
Remember that time James Harden dropped a 30-point triple-double in his Nets debut?
Yeah, and he had 14 assists the first time he put on a Nets jersey. Do you guys not realize how skilled at basketball these guys are? Do you guys not realize how high of IQ these guys have? There's only 5 guys that step on the floor at a time. They're going to figure it out. We've got to play the defending champs, well, the Eastern Conference champs, the Heat. Down there at American Airlines Arena on Sunday, we'll match up against the Miami Heat, the Miami Vice wearing team, well, their colors. And we'll be back with another pod after that. And if you like this podcast, if you want to see this podcast do well, if you want to see this podcast continue to thrive and shine and get on Nets Magazine, write some reviews. Because when people look up this podcast after they see us on Nets Magazine, they're going to be like, man, they've only got 5 reviews. We've got much more than that. But we want to read a review right now from Talking Nets fam. I don't know if she's day one, but she's been calling in. She's been supporting us on Twitter.
She's been rocking with me on the Twitter for a long time. I love her.
Hudson donned her already as his favorite Talking Nets fan.
She is my favorite Talking Nets fan. Definitely left the best voicemail. Everyone's got to work up to the level of voicemail she's leaving.
And on brand, this is her review. 5 stars. Jamie from Texas writes, the best. This is absolutely the best Nets podcast. I love that it's a Nets fan podcast also. It brings a different perspective. Keith and Hudson are the perfect duo. I also like how they play voicemails on the show. It's always good to hear what other fans are thinking. For those that haven't tuned in, you don't know what you're missing.
Thank you.
I told y'all we're not analysts, we're fanalists, a.k.a. we're just fans of this. Bars. All right. Leave a voicemail. 201-870-0461. Call up, make sure it's under a minute. Leave your name, and you'll get played on the show. Unless you say something crazy or, like JJ calls, he leaves like 3 messages, then he DMs me about it. And I'm like, bro, I got it.
You're cyberbullying this 15-year-old kid.
Yeah, but that's my dog. That's my man. I appreciate JJ. Make sure you follow us at Talking Nets on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Just search Talking Nets in Google, and it will line up everything. You can follow me at Keith McPherson. Real name, no gimmicks. It's my first name and my last name. My mom came up with this. Hudson Flynn, where can they follow you?
It's the same deal, Keith. Hudson Flynn _ Someone took Hudson Flynn on Twitter. Very rude. Whatever. I'll deal with it.
Someone took Keith McPherson as one thing on Twitter, so that's why I have an underscore in between. But people, they still find me anyway. It's okay. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the pod. Tell a friend to tell a friend we're talking Nets. That's all we've got, man. We got to send another shout-out to Media Squared, Nets Magazine, the Yes Network, for rocking with us, reaching out. Also, my guy Tony for producing this podcast in the John Boy Media studio. Thank you, John Boy Media. That's all we've got. We've got a couple more games. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.